A judge dismissed a murder charge against a Georgia man who spent more than 20 years in prison, ending a decades-long legal fight to exonerate him. Floyd County judge dismissed the case at the request of the district attorney, who decided not to bring Joey Watkins to trial, again after his initial conviction was vacated. The Georgia Innocence Project and other attorneys waged a lengthy fight to overturn this conviction. Watkins and his attorneys stated that they wept as they called him to say that the charges have been dropped. Quote, I cried like a baby, I guess you could say, just knowing that I was finally finished, finally over. Watkins celebrated his freedom at the Harvest Moon Cafe in Rome, Georgia. He stated, I can't tell you how good it feels. Do you know how many times I've drove by and looked up at these windows and thought one day I'll be able to sit up there, have a beer, and actually relax? Well, that day is finally here, and I am grateful. Watkins, now 43, was 20 when he was convicted and sentenced to serve life plus 5 years in prison for the 2000 slaying of Isaac Dawkins in northwest Georgia. Dawkins was driving his truck along a highway when someone opened fire and shot him. The Georgia Supreme Court in December agreed with the judge that Watkins should have a new trial, and a judge in January agreed to release him from jail on bond as he awaited his second trial date. The district attorney's office filed a motion to drop the prosecution, and the judge granted the request on Thursday. Christina Cribbs, senior attorney with the Georgia Innocence Project, stated that Watkins won the new trial request based on issues with the juror misconduct and other factors. But she stated cell phone data shows that he was not near Dawkins. After spending more than half his life behind bars, Watkins stated that he is trying to adjust and rebuild his life. Quote, everything that you thought you knew is different. Places, people, it's just like time stops and restarts. I'm just grateful at another chance at life. Cribbs stated that while it is joyful to see Watkins released, there is a lot of sadness there too about what he lost. Quote, there is no way Joey can get back those 22 years. GoFundMe page has been set up for Watkins and has raised more than $10,000 as of Monday morning. Though the future for Joey is bright and he is working hard to set himself up for success, there's still a long road ahead. Watkins' freedom comes just days after Jesse Johnson, an Oregon man sentenced to death for the 1998 murder, was released from prison 2 years after the Oregon courts of appeals reversed his conviction. Now, I'll tell you this, it's a shame that he was locked up and, in a sense, framed for the murder of somebody that he was not even around himself. But these are the same exact things that have been happening to black men for the longest time in America. So it's hard to say that I can garner enough sympathy and empathy for this man, knowing the fact that hundreds of thousands of black men over the course of decades, right, of half a century, right, even longer than that, have been continuously locked up, have been executed. Like I said, a variety of things have taken place. And this was all due to the fact that they wanted to keep people in that prison industry complex, right? Because again, jails and prisons are privatized. You have the rich that are able to fund and build these prisons. And you also have other interest groups directly out there, and all of them are seeking their money for this one specific thing, right? And in order for them to get their money, in order for, let's say, stocks or shareholders, whatever you want to sit up there and call it, in order for any of these individuals to get that specific money, there has to be bodies directly in those cells. And the greater majority of the time, those are black men, young black men, older black men, and young black boys. Doesn't matter if it's in the juvenile system, doesn't matter if it's in the jail system, doesn't matter if it's in the prison or the maximum prison or the federal prison system. Any which one, as long as they are there, people are happy and they're able to make money. The moment in time that you start to have a shift or a movement with people, and you start to have less crime, somebody's going to lose out on a lot of money. So that means that they're going to have to switch up the rules and the regulations in order to potentially cause more people to end up in jails and prisons over things that realistically shouldn't even matter. Or they'll try to bring up old rules and laws and, really try to stick it to the people, right? But again, I told people time and time before that the exact same things that you see happen to Black people will sooner or later start to happen to you or continuously happen to you. And this is a case right here where you look at Joy Watkins and what it is that he has to face, what it is that he has to look at, right? He had his 22 plus years taken directly away from him. He had his youth taken away from him. He had opportunity taken away from him, right? He had potential relationships or marriages taken away from him. He probably even has family that have disassociated themselves away from him. So now he has to try to get all of that back, possibly, potentially. And then on top of that, he has to live and try to understand a brand new world that he's been away from for 22 years. I'm not sure if people actually understand how jails and prisons are, in a sense, a time capsule, right? You're stuck at a whatever year you came in, that's pretty much the year that you're going to enter back in from. So if you ended up being locked up in 2022 and then you get out in 2040 or 2050, you're still, for you mentally, technology wise, understanding music, you're still stuck in 2022. So you got all of those decades, all of those years to try to catch up on. And it almost seems like an impossible feat to do, where you have to try to gain all of that knowledge that people, got to walk in and gather over time as the years and the months and the days took place. You got to try to absorb all of this and play catch up while people are, looking forward to, 2051 or 2041, right? But like I said before, people will, sooner or later understand, and they will start to see that everybody has their turn on the wheel. And for a lot of Black people, we've had our fair share and our turn directly on the wheel. So time is ticking and the wheel is moving. And soon enough, that red arrow is going to land on somebody else. And then they're going to have to deal with all of the pain and all of the suffering that Black people have always had to deal with.